Hey, how are you guys doing? Haven't made a video in a while, so as if I wasn't bad before, I might be even more rusty now. But let's get started. So, what we were going to be getting into for these last few weeks of school was graphing lines. And right before spring break, we reviewed how to graph points. So graphing points is going to really help us graph lines. And also our solving that we have been working so hard on even since the first semester, and then especially during this time to review, is going to be oh so important. And that's why it was important for us to make sure that we remembered how to do it, practiced how to do it, and now we are going to put all of that together to be able to graph lines. So our first equation, let me title this real quick. Oh no, my green pen's gonna go out. Guess I'm gonna have to switch. So, hopefully you can see. Let me turn this lamp on, that might make it better. A little bit. No, there's kind of a glare. But we're gonna graph lines using a table of values, and we are going to create that table of values using our equation. So the first equation that we are going to graph is y equals x plus 3. So the first thing that we're going to do to set up our table, and I would encourage you to take notes along with me, set this up as we go, pause, and try to do something ahead of me. Because again, that's the only way we can really learn math, is by practicing. So I have my x values and my y values. And remember, when we graph points, this is a quick little reminder. Ordered pairs are x and y, and the x-axis is the horizontal axis, and the y-axis is the vertical axis. Okay. So that's going to come in handy when we graph these, but we can't start with that yet. Alright, so my second line, I'm just going to identify what my x and y is before I put any numbers with it. So my x value, we are going to actually choose our x values. So we can choose any numbers in the world that we want, but sometimes there are easier numbers to pick than others, and we're going to talk about that. But for the basis, for most problems, we want to look at the center of the graph because that's where most of our coordinate planes are going to start. So a good center of numbers is a couple negatives, a couple positives, and then 0. So we're gonna have our x values and our y values. So remember, our equation tells us what y equals. Y equals x plus 3. So that's my second line, just identifying what x is and what y is. Now, again, like I was saying, we're going to choose our x values, and the x values that we choose, we can be strategic about. So we can make our lives easier, or we can make them harder. I like to make stuff easier. So when I choose my x values, I want a nice even spread over the origin. And remember, the origin, going to add to our reminder here, the origin is at 0, 0. So I want my x values to have a nice spread around that. So I'm going to choose -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And again, it does not really matter what x values you choose. I'm choosing these because they're small numbers, they're in the center of the graph, and most graph papers start with the center in the middle. So it makes sense that you want your x values to be over the middle. So again, you can choose any x value in the world, I'm not going to stop you, but sometimes it's going to be hard to find a graph with those numbers on it. Once I do that, now this is the value that I'm substituting in to this x here. So notice how our x value is just x, but our y value is x plus 3. So we're going to use this x value that we chose to substitute in. So I have -2 plus 3. When I simplify that, -2 plus 3 would be a positive 1. This is the y value that I'm going to be graphing. Next step, -1 plus 3. And this plus 3 doesn't change ever because look at our equation. Look at our equation. That x plus 3 is there, so we can't change that. What's changing is the x value. And ultimately what our y value equals is going to change as well, because negative 1 plus 3 is not 1, but it is actually 2. Now I have 0 plus 3, and 0 plus 3 is 3. I'm going to substitute the 1 in, and 1 plus 3 is 4. And substitute the 2 in, plus 3 equals 5. And notice I still put parentheses around 0, 1, and 2. You certainly don't have to, but once we get into equations, like our next one we're going to look at that has multiplication, you're going to have to put them in parentheses anyways. So best practice is to always put those numbers you're substituting in parentheses. Okay, so again, this is my x value, this is my y value. Together, they make our ordered pair. And our ordered pairs we can graph. So I don't have a printer at home, or that's a lie. I have a printer. I'm out of black ink, and I don't want to go to the store and buy more black ink, so I can't print off any coordinate planes. But have no fear, coordinate planes are really easy to make. If you have a straight edge, it makes it easier. If you don't, you can still graph it. You can still do it. But I'm going to make a straight edge just so my graph looks a little bit nicer. And all you're going to do is you're going to make a big plus sign. Put your arrows on the end because these go on forever, but our paper does not. Label them so we don't forget. Remember, x value, or the x-axis is horizontal, and the y-axis is our vertical. Now, I say this every year when I get into graphing. If you are making your own coordinate plane, do not, I repeat, do not draw all the grid lines, because it just makes it a hot mess, and plus you're adding way more work to yourself than you need to. When you're drawing your own, make tick marks. Alright, so you can see mine's not perfect, but I tried to space them out as evenly as I could, but I'm human. Alright, now let's graph. My first ordered pair is negative 2, 1. Remember, we graph the x first and then the y, and our first value is x, x-axis, runaway marker. I'm going to start at the origin like I should every time I graph a point. Always start at the origin. We're going to the left 2. Negative 1, negative 2, up 1. Easy peasy. Second point, negative 1, 2. So I'm going to go from the origin. Don't forget, from the origin. Left 1, up 1, 2. Third point, 0, 3. Staying at the origin. Up 1, 2, 3. Plot my point, and if you're on a homemade graph, it's not going to be perfect. Okay, so it's okay. Fourth point, 1, 4, so from the origin, I'm going to go to the right 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, plot my point, and last point, 2, positive 2, 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Awesome. So you can see they're a little off, but that's because I'm on a homemade graph. So now we're going to connect all these, and it's really important to connect past all of the dots. Don't stop at a dot. Okay, why? Because this line does not stop at those dots. So remember, we could have chosen any x value in the world, negative 100,054. And we could still find a y value to fit that point. Okay, so to show that, instead of having an infinite number of points, simply arrow the end of it, and that's our line. Okay, soak that in for a second while I switch over to a clean sheet of paper. All right, one more example that's going to be very similar to that one. Our new equation, y equals 2x minus 4. So now we need to create a table of values, and our table of values is always going to be x and then y. Or a t-chart, some people call it a t-chart. Why do they call it a t-chart? It looks like a T. All right, our next line, we're going to identify what our pieces of the table mean. What does the x mean? What does the y mean? Well, x is just x. And the y, look at this, the y equals 2x minus 4. So we have 2x minus 4. From there, we choose our x values. And again, you can choose any x values you want. But the best x values to choose are the one that's going to center the origin, because our graph paper starts at the origin. So again, we're going to choose a nice even spread across 0, and we want some negative numbers and some positive numbers. So I'm going to choose -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now I'm going to use those x values and substitute into this expression so I can figure out what y equals. Now I have 2 times -2. So remember when I was talking about those parentheses in the last problem? This is where it's really important to use the parentheses and substitute the values as is. Don't drop any negative signs. If there's a negative sign, keep it there. If there's a subtraction sign, keep it there. We can't just drop stuff because we want to. All right, when we simplify this, we have 2 times -2, which is -4 minus 4, because we still have that minus 4. Same sign, add the number, keep the sign. So our y value is actually -8. Now, if you can simplify this in your head and you don't need to write all these steps out, go for it. Do it. I love it. I'm just writing the steps to show you exactly what I'm doing. And then once you get the hang of it, maybe you don't need to do that anymore. Next step, substitute -1 into our expression. So that 2 times doesn't change because it's 2 times x, and that -4 doesn't change because it's in our equation. What's changing is the x value. 2 times -1 is -2, minus 4, same sign, add the numbers, and we get -6. Substitute 0 in. We have 2 times 0 minus 4. Well, 2 times 0 is 0 minus 4 would equal -4. So maybe you saw this on our last problem, but I didn't talk about it because I wanted to wait till this one to talk about it. But do you notice that every single time we find a y value, they are exactly the same distance apart? So on our last one, what do we have to add to 1 to get to 2? Well, you add 1. From 2 to 3, add 1. 3 to 4, add 1. 4 to 5, add 1. So we could find our next one without substituting into the equation. What would it be? 6. And this would be 3. Okay, so let's use that to find our next 2. And change colors. From -8 to -6. So if you owe someone $8 and now you owe them $6, how much did you pay off on your loan? You paid $2. And from 6 to 4, you're paying off $2 at a time. So from here to here should have the same, as long as this is going up by the same amount every time. Because we're going up by the same amount every time, the right side's going to go up by the same amount every time. So let's make our prediction. Go from -8 to -6 to -2. I think it's going to be -2, but let's substitute in just to make sure we are right. 2 times 1 minus 4. 2 times 1 is 2 minus 4. 2 minus 4, oh, is -2. Woo! Yes, let's do the last one. So if we add 2, we are going to break even with this person. All right. Double check. 2 times 0 is 0 minus 4. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, there was something going on outside. Lost my train of thought. Thanks for stopping me, though. Thanks for saying, hey, Miss Bauer, you made a mistake. I would have never caught it without you guys. All right. That's supposed to be 2. Now this is going to make more sense. Boop. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 minus 4 is, in fact, 0. So, once you find your pattern, you can fill in your chart without simplifying everything. You might want to try at least 2, but probably 3 just to make sure you have the pattern correct before you just fill it in the other way. And another note, the left have to be going up by the same amount as well. So if you're going up by 2's on the left, know that that's skipping by 2's. Since we're going up by 1's, it's going up by the same amount every time. Okay. Homemade coordinate plane time. Apologize. If you don't have a straight edge, you can use your student ID, driver's license, side of a notebook, cookbook, lots of things with straight edges on it. Don't forget to label. Don't forget to add a few tick marks. So notice I have to go all the way to -8 in the y, so I probably want to make sure I go at least 8 tick marks on the y-axis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're a little close together, but that's all right. Alright, let's graph. Hey, my first ordered pair, -1 or -2, -8. So from the origin, always start at the origin. Gonna go to the left, 1, 2, and we're gonna go down to -8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Second ordered pair, -1, -6. So we're going to go from the origin to the left 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Third point, 0, -4. So I'm going to stay at the origin, but I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot my point. Fourth point, I have 1, -2. So I'm going to stay from the origin, go right 1, down 1, 2. And my last point, 2, 0. So I'm going to go to the right 2 and stay on that line. See all my dots? They line up pretty well for the most part, like I said. Homemade graphs aren't always the best, but make your best judgment. It's okay. Sorry, my graph's bad. Anyways, remember, line extends through your last points with arrows on the end. Take a look at that. Alright, I will see you for the next video when the problems get a tad bit different. They're going to be awesome, and you're going to do great.